Well, today I'm debunking Kent Hovind's claims about carbon dating not being accurate. So off the very start, Kent Hovind says the carbon dating was not invented until 1949. In reality, with a simple Google search, it was actually invented in 1946. So from the very start, he's already wrong. So I'm going to paraphrase to this. You can pause the video and read through this. But Ken Hovind is saying at this part that the geologic column, the dates for each layer, were chosen without any scientific reasoning, which is completely untrue. There were other dating methods before carbon dating or radiometric dating, and they used those to determine that the geologic column was accurate. So that kind of goes through the whole thing, and he says that it's only been used now because it's been assumed to be true. And the fact that it's been used for so long, and he says that just because something is tough for so long doesn't make it true, which I think he should be thinking about when it comes to his religion. And he says next, if you test a sample 5 or 6 different times to get the age you want, which I don't think that part's very true or honest to say. He said, how would you know any dates given are right if you're getting a very different one every time? Well, I would test something that many times anyway if I was testing something for dating, just to make sure I'm getting an accurate reading. As far as if you're getting a different, date every time, you should probably change your elements or change the method you're testing it, because more than likely you're either doing it wrong or you're using the wrong element to get the right date. So now Kent is saying here that fossils are not dated by carbon dating, which they're not. They're because carbon dating has too short of its lifespan to do that. So instead we use other elements. But anyway, he says fossils are dated by their geological position, which is dated by a mixture of that as well in reality. And he said that they're chosen at the. He's just kind of repeating himself here. And he says so the dating method for dating rocks fossils is based off of circular reasoning. As I mentioned before, it's not. So now in this part, Kent is claiming that there are no natural sources of carbon below the Ice Age. When I tried looking, he has sources linked. The only thing that even mentioned the Pleistocene or Ice Age was an article, and it says that radiocarbon analysis by accelerator mass spectrometric, that's what it is, techniques on organic fractions of human bone from various North American localates previously assigned ages ranged from 70,000 to 15,000 years now suggests that none of these skeletons are older than 11,000 C14 years. So what this means is that none of what he's saying here is true whatsoever, because that was the only thing that actually mentioned the Ice Age from any of his sources. So I don't know where he even got this information from. And now in this part, he says, in theory, the amount of carbon-14 never goes to 0. This is very important because he's about to contradict himself with this statement. Alright, so here's the contradiction right here. So he says, the textbooks say that coal formed 250 million years ago. However, when coal is tested, it still has carbon-14. How is that possible? Well, Kent, you just said that anything that was alive theoretically has carbon-14 and it never drops down to 0. So you already answered that, but you're contradicting yourself in your last statement. If all the carbon-14 diamonds would have disappeared at a maximum of 250,000 years, which it wouldn't, because like you just said, there's always some amount left. Yeah, so that's kind of the whole part right here. He's debunking himself. So in this part, Kent is assuming that there will eventually be a equilibrium of carbon-14 in the atmosphere, I guess. The problem with that is like how much is gaining, how much there's losing, because there's always some gaining or whatever. So there will be a point in time where they'll match, which the whole problem with that is that the amount has never been the same throughout history, but he's assuming that it's been at the same rate this whole time. It hasn't been. So because of that, that throws that whole thing out the window. Sometimes it's the carbon-14 was decaying more than it was gaining, or it was gaining a lot more than it was, decaying. There's so many variables that you're not considering in this that it's kind of crazy. So Kent here is saying that it's impossible to know how much carbon-14 was in an animal at death, and it is impossible to know if carbon-14 has always decayed at the same rate. We know carbon-14 decays at the same rate. Second thing here is we can tell, well, it doesn't really matter how much carbon-14 it had. We're just saying how radioactive it still is. That's all you need to figure out. You're not measuring the amount of carbon-14 it has. You're just measuring the amount of radioactivity is left in that carbon. So you're getting that part confused, Kent. Alright, so now Kent is, well, I'm pretty sure this is a straw man here. So it says, if a carbon-14 date supports our theories, to put it to the main test. If it does not entirely contradict them, we put it in a footnote. And if it is completely out of date, we just drop it. So that means that they simply choose whatever they want. This is exactly correct. If the number doesn't fit that what they expect, they just throw it out. So the problem with this is, so in the context here is, so if you're doing something and if you get a number that is completely like way out there, you're gonna disregard that. But if the number you get is kind of within the ballpark but not entirely, you keep it in there and consider it, and then you keep testing to see what is the pattern. So now in this little bit here, he says, when something of known age is dated, it doesn't work. When something of unknown age is dated, carbon dating is assumed to work. That is not science. So I'm assuming, because his son actually went in detail about this, they dated things that were alive, and they weren't coming off as accurate, and that was because, they're not losing any radioactivity because they're still living. Or something that was like recently dead was also dated, which also kind of for the same reason, the radioactivity is going to be relatively the same because it was recently dead, so you're going to get inaccurate readings. So that is the end of my video. Everything that I gave as a rebuttal will be in the description as far as sources go. Thank you for watching my video. Hopefully you've been satisfied by my debunking of Kent Hovind's very strange claims here.